Words of Money Podcast, episode 26. Getting fiscal.
You're listening to the Words and Money Podcast with money enthusiast and financial literacy coach, Tess Wicks. Each week, listen in on a 30-minute no BS conversation, teaching us how to be smart about money, our future, and miscellaneous adult things, from the minds of our brilliant expert guests and from Tess herself. Whether you're a recent graduate, young professional, or seasoned career woman still trying to figure out your money matters, you've made it to the right place. Welcome to Words and Money.
Welcome back, guys and gals, to another episode of the Words of Money Podcast. I'm your host, Tess Wicks, and this week I have an awesome interview with Cait Flanders, the blogger behind Blonde on a Budget. Cait started her blogging journey to document her debt repayment. She had $28,000 of consumer credit card debt and actually shares a little bit, or maybe a lot of it after I pried, of her story with us. After paying off her debt, Cait adopted a minimalist lifestyle where she gave away 75% of her things and commenced a 2-year shopping ban, which will be wrapping up this July. We talk all about it in this week's episode, along with how Cait will eventually be moving into her car. So I'm not going to keep you any longer. Here is Control Your Spending, Live on Less with Cait Flanders. Cait, thank you so much for joining me on the Words of Money podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. So tell my listeners a little bit about yourself. Give us some background about you, and then what is your core message on your blog, Blonde on a Budget?
Yeah, so, that's how we connected, is through my blog. So I started Blonde on a Budget back in 2011 now. So it's been just over 5 years. And I started it because, like many people, if you find a lot of personal finance blogs out there, I was documenting my debt repayment journey. I was maxed out with about $28,000 of debt, most of which was consumer. Only about $4,000 of that was student loan debt. So I had a bit of a spending problem, you could say. And the first 2 years of the blog was me documenting getting out of debt. But I also started talking about a lot of other things after that. So everything from, now I'm almost done a 2-year shopping ban. I'm like a month away from being done.
Yes.
I've sort of embraced minimalism, gotten rid of about 75% of my belongings, and just talked about other things. Like, something I've realized lately is that I think if we're going to the core message part of it, I think something I've talked about a lot lately on my blog, without really realizing it, is sort of the idea that, like, we need to become more conscious consumers of everything. So not just, what we're spending our money on, but even things like, what are you eating and how does your body feel after you eat it? And, how much media are you consuming? And how much time, like when you spend time on social media, how does it actually make you feel? When you take breaks from social media, how does it make you feel? Just being very alert of like what you are consuming, what you are taking in, how it makes you feel, and seeing if you actually feel good about that or not. So yeah, I talk about a lot of stuff.
I like that. I mean, it seems like you've really transitioned into kind of a lifestyle perspective of the whole social media thing is what gets me. I know I have a love-hate relationship with it, and it's usually hate. I'm like, what am I doing here?
Well, I think most people feel that way in some ways, and we don't have to go on a tangent about this, but I think something I'm thinking about a lot lately is I'm wondering how many people, or not even just people, if we're sort of going to see a backwards trend of people wanting to get offline a bit more. Because I think we're so plugged in right now that people are just starting to lose themselves in it. So anyways, I just think it'll be interesting. That's an interesting topic to me right now.
Yes, we will see what the future holds. So tell us, what is your money story? How did you grow up around money? And then what's your current relationship with money? So 2 separate questions.
Yeah, so I grew up very middle class. Like, I was never doing without anything, but we also didn't, I didn't grow up traveling, to Mexico every year or anything like that, like I saw a lot of my friends do. I do remember talking about money a lot when I was a kid, which I'm extremely grateful for now. I don't think I understood it much back then, but my parents both talked to me a lot about money, but my dad specifically just has a huge interest in it in himself and would always push it on me in ways that when you're a teenager are really not fun. When you come home and you find newspaper articles about retirement plans cut out for you and laid on your bed.
Oh, gosh.
So it's, yeah. I sort of joke that, like, you know, I'm fortunate. My dad, with him, there's no topic of conversation that's off the table. So we've talked about everything always. But the money stuff specifically, I just have tons of memories. Like, as soon as I got my first job, he'd be like, well, you need to be saving part of your paycheck and stuff like that. And now I will say, not that I listened to all of that. I still made a lot of mistakes. So my classic mistake is what a lot of people do, is that I, you know, as soon as I got credit cards, I sort of used them like they were extra money, which is obviously not the way to use them. And I just, you know, I will say it, and we can talk about the shopping ban at some point, but like, I do not identify as a shopaholic by any means. And when I look back at all the spending I was doing, because, you know, I did make these mistakes, I ended up with $28,000 of mostly consumer debt, but it was really just living a lifestyle I couldn't afford. So saying yes to everything, you know, every dinner invitation, every shopping request, every whatever, like friends wanted to do anything, I would just say yes and go for it and swipe for it. So that's sort of, I guess, backstory. Now I would say that I've realized, especially with the shopping ban, that like no physical objects can really add much value to my life. I do get a lot of value when I travel. So I do spend money. A lot of people think I don't spend money. I'm like, no, I spend a lot of money, but I spend it on travel. But yeah, I've really just realized that there's now, like, if I was going to purchase something or just put money towards something, I really like question the decision and make sure that it sort of aligns with stuff. I call it my goals and my values. Like, it has to align with the things that I know will bring me happiness. Like, adding more things to my home will not make me happy. But going on a trip, like, if I can afford that, that will make me happy. So I'll put money towards that.
That's great. I definitely want to get into the shopping ban. But before we do, going back to your debt, did you notice that you were racking up that much debt when you were? Or how did you kind of, like, what was your mindset around making those purchases, if you can go back to that time?
Yeah. I remember I always knew, like, with every time I was about to swipe my credit card, I had this, like, gut instinct that I shouldn't be doing that. I don't know that my gut told me exactly, like, what my numbers were or anything, but I just knew, like, I don't have the money for this. I should not be making this purchase right now, but I would swipe for it anyways. So there's a lot of denial in there, and also just not wanting to have to say no to things. Like, I just wanted to do everything. So I always knew. I did not look at the numbers very often, which I would say, you know, the more and more comments I've gotten and emails I've gotten from readers over the years, that is very common, to be like very scared to actually look at your full credit card statements, look at every single purchase that you've made, look at the balance. I was definitely too scared to look at that for a really long time, basically until it was too late. Like, it got to the point where I was maxed out and had $100 left on my credit card limit and $100 in my checking account. And so I had that $200 of wiggle room, and it had to last me for 6 weeks. So I was in really big trouble. But I don't know. I knew I was doing something wrong. I just, you know, I fell into what a lot of people fall into, which is the minimum payment trap. And you think that, you know, as long as I can make my monthly payment on my credit card or on this loan for a new car or whatever, like, as long as I can make my minimum payments, then I'm fine. And it was a really dangerous trap. So just one more question. Mm-hmm. I know I said that was the last one, but no. You're giving so much information. What was the first step you took to kind of reverse that trap that you felt you were in? So the first thing I had to do was be real with myself about the numbers. I remember actually for months, like, leading up to realizing I was fully maxed out, I had been fully ignoring my credit card statements to the point, like, I would only peel a little corner of the envelope and just look at the minimum payment that was due. I wouldn't even look at the balance because I knew it was bad. And so the first thing I had to do was, like, be totally real with myself. I added up all the numbers. I think I had 2 credit cards. Yeah, I think I had 4 or 5 different debts. And so added them all up, really looked at the picture, like, realized how much trouble I was in. And now when I look back at it, realize I probably sort of put myself on a semi-shopping ban right away back then, which I didn't call it one, but I was really like being maxed out is one of the worst things I've ever felt. Like I felt like such a failure. I thought I was good with things. Like I thought I was smart and good with my money, and I just felt like such a loser. And so I wouldn't allow myself to spend money on anything. Like I was obsessed with getting rid of my debt and putting everything I could towards it. And yeah, so I sort of went on a shopping ban, I guess, for the 2 years it took me to pay off debt. But it started with being really real with myself.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that. So let's talk about this shopping ban and then kind of going into just becoming more of a minimalist and having that minimalist lifestyle. So you started a shopping ban 2 years ago and know firsthand what it really looks like to live minimally. How did you get started? Why? How? What was the process?
Yeah. So it's so funny because the shopping ban, just like a lot of people, when they hear about the shopping ban and then find out that I also paid off $28,000 of debt, they think that I did the shopping ban to pay off debt. I'm like, no, I was debt free. I just really was getting bad with my spending again. So one of the problems I think with the way, like the approach that I took to pay off my debt was that I deprived myself, or like I felt deprived. I didn't really understand that I was doing something to help my future. I constantly just felt like, oh, like I wish I could do this and I can't because I'm paying off my debt. And then as soon as I paid off my debt, I went right back to spending. And I didn't go back into debt, but like there were months when I was paying off debt where sometimes I could allocate up to 55% of my income towards debt repayment. And then in the first year that followed, I would say the most I ever saved was like 10%. So it was like, it didn't make any sense. Like all of a sudden I was needing 90% of my income when I didn't need it when I was paying off debt. But now, I just let lifestyle inflation creep in and made all these excuses for why I couldn't save. But at the end of every single month, I would feel bad about it. Like, because I used to do monthly budget updates on my blog. And I would say at the beginning of every month, I want to save 20% of my income. And then I'd get to the end of the month and be like, okay, guys, I only saved like 8%. Whoops. Like, and I would feel guilty, but I still just wasn't, I don't know. I wasn't in the mindset yet where like saving was this good habit. It also probably didn't help. I didn't have a goal at first. Like I didn't know what I was saving for. But so it started from that. Like I just really realized I wasn't getting anywhere with my goals. And I could look around my home and be like, I don't really need anything. Like, I don't have tons of stuff, but I have probably enough toothpaste to last 6 months and like just weird things like that. Like I have lotion and shampoo and all kinds of things, and I don't really need to buy anything. So I decided to attempt to not shop for a year. And so I could shop for anything that was essential. So, or I call it like consumables. So I could shop for groceries, toiletries if I ran out of them, stuff like that, gas for my car. That was all fine, but I could not buy anything that was a non-essential. So I realized I had like 50 books I'd never even read, but I'd paid for at some point in my life. I had, just like home decor. Like, I'm sorry, like you don't need more home decor.
That's my thing. I'm like, I love home decor. But...
No, but it's so, it's just sold on us that like, and now I'm going to go into another side rant if I'm not careful. But we could talk about the Pinterest generation. I'll call us later.
Yes.
But yeah. No, and so, I just realized I didn't need to buy any of these other things. So to try and go for a year where I only bought stuff I actually needed, and it was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. I did identify some things that I think sort of started this whole conscious consumer topic that I talk about now, which is I realized like a lot of the things, or a couple of things that were the toughest to give up were things that I had daily habits built around. So like takeout coffee was huge for me to give up, it's weird. I guess I should have said that. That was part of my shopping ban. And that was only because I realized I was uncomfortable with how much money I was spending on it every month. Mm-hmm. When you can make perfectly good coffee at home. So that was difficult though, because I realized I had all these weird little habits. So like, if I was running errands one day, like to me, I had built up this habit, like, okay, any day I'm running errands, I get like a latte first. Or, the mornings when I had meetings starting at 7 a.m. For some reason, I would think like, okay, those are the mornings then that I go downstairs and go to the coffee shop versus get up early and make coffee at home. Like, I don't even understand the logic, but those were habits. And the same was with books. Like, I had been buying books for years. Like, anytime I would see a single book that I wanted, I would immediately go to Amazon or go to Chapters or whatever, look it up. And then if I wanted to get the $25 free shipping, either look at ones that were recommended to me or look at this long list of bookmarks that I had going for years and years and years of all the books I wanted to read. Pick one, add it to the cart, buy two, done deal. And so giving up, like changing the habits was the toughest part. But actually not shopping wasn't really a big deal. And then after the first year, I decided to do it for a second year. So
yes. And so if you wanted to buy a book, would you make yourself read like one of your books at home first?
Yeah, but I still haven't bought anything. I have lucked out with a couple things where I've had friends. I had surgery a few months ago and I knew I'd be kind of out for like a month, and I had friends who were super sweet and sent me like a whole bunch of books. And I don't really know how I got on their like marketing list, but Penguin Random House in Canada added me to some list, and I get a lot of free books from them now.
Oh, nice.
I know. I still don't totally get how that happened.
Are they like good books or are they just random books?
There's been like a mix. Like there's been some phenomenal books. They sent me 9 books at the end of December, and it was like all the ones they were excited that were coming out in 2016. So like preview copies, and there were some fantastic books in that. And then some of the other ones have been like, well, that's fiction I wouldn't really read, but so I haven't bought books. That is a rule though with some other things. Like it's kind of the one in, one out rule. So I have had a few things happen. Like I had a pair of jeans rip in the inner thigh, which I think all girls relate to at some point. It's
Yes.
just a thing that happens. And there's really, like, I learned how to sew and how to patch things throughout the shopping ban. There's really no fixing that. You can try and patch the inner thigh. It will last you about a week. So I did like have to replace a pair of jeans, stuff like that. But that's because I also only own one pair of jeans. Like if I had backup pairs, I wouldn't have bought anything. So for stuff like that, yeah, like if I want to buy something, I have to be either donating or tossing the other item.
Mm-hmm. And now you're living more of a minimalist lifestyle. So throughout the shopping ban, did you just notice there was a lot of stuff that you didn't need and you kind of got rid of?
Yeah, again, like sometimes when I think of the process that I took for this, it probably sounds so backwards, but at the exact same time that I started the shopping ban, I realized kind of, I don't know, I was probably going on some momentum here, but I realized like how much stuff I had around the house that I wasn't even using. And so like at the exact same time I first started decluttering, in a month, I got rid of like 40-something% of my belongings. And that was literally like emptying every closet, cupboard, drawer, everything, putting it on the floor, putting it on the bed, like whatever, sprawling it all out and touching every single thing and being like, do I need to keep this? Yes or no? Like, do I actually use it? Do I wear it? When was the last time I used it? And just getting rid of everything that I could honestly look at and be like, no, I will never, ever use that again or wear it again or whatever. And so it started with that. And I know it sort of sounds, yeah, like backwards. But what was interesting about it is that because I then knew like how much stuff I was keeping, I also sort of then had this like visual in my mind. So anytime I did feel like shopping, I could be like, nope, like I have 47 books I've never read, because I actually went through my bookshelf and counted that I had 47 or whatever books that I hadn't read. And same thing with like clothes, like, or just anything. If I ever felt like buying anything, I could sort of take a stock of what my inventory was, so to speak, and be like, no, I don't need that. Like, I know I have 2 bottles of lotion at home, or I know, I have like a 6-month supply of toothpaste, or like whatever, just whatever I would think of buying. Like, I just knew what I had. And so it was a good reminder to not make a lot of impulse purchases. But as time kept going on, like all throughout the year, and even still now, like if I can look around my home and see anything that I haven't used in a long time, my thought isn't so much just like, oh, get rid of it, but it's like every item exists for a purpose. Like, they all have a utility, they have a use. And if I'm not using it, like what is the point of me keeping it? What if someone else could actually use it? So I still give tons of stuff away, and it's not I don't know. It's not so much a numbers game, which I think a lot of people feel weird about when you hear the word minimalism, is you think like you only need to own 100 things or live out of one suitcase or whatever. And it's not like that. It's really just like looking at your belongings and sort of again going back to like, does it add value, or like, am I actually using it? And just getting rid of whatever it doesn't.
Love it. So on your site, it says that your shopping ban ends July 6th. Are you ready for that?
Yes, I'm so ready. It's not even funny. It's funny though, because I really didn't care up until a few months ago when I started realizing there are some things really just through hobbies that I've come into more over the last, like even the last 6 months. Like there's stuff I want for hiking and camping and stuff like that. And I'm like, I'm sure I could justify it, like if I felt like it, but I'll just feel better when the shopping ban's over and I can just make those purchases without really having to think about that.
Do you think that you have built up, the 2 years have built up enough that now you're not going to have any more shopping problems?
I'll never ever go back to being the kind of consumer I was before. And again, really, like, I don't even think so much it was a shopping problem. It was just a lot of mindless spending, which I think is very normal for a lot of people. Like, is something as simple as like going to the store to pick up 2 things, seeing something else, it only costs $5 or $10, throwing it in your basket. And seriously, when I say like, I keep kind of joking about things like toothpaste or lotion, but those are the little purchases we make that take huge hits on our budget when we don't think about it, right? Like, it's like, you might think, oh, it's only $20 or it's only whatever, and you just throw it in your basket and you pay for it and you think no big deal. But if you do that every single time you go out, that adds up really, really fast. So I will never go back to being that kind of consumer. Like, if I don't need something, even like I've been able to look at things like a bottle of shampoo and like, that'll probably run out in like 3 weeks. I don't go shopping for it then. I will run out when I know I have like 2 days worth left. Because I don't know, unless I need it, I don't want to spend money on it. So I'll never go back to just like mindlessly spending tons of money.
Yeah. The funny thing about that is that like stores set up their stores so that you mindlessly spend. Like, I know that Target has that $1 thing right at the entrance because they know that women psychologically will walk through there because they'll be attracted by something cute and then they'll be like, oh, it's only $1. I'm gonna get it. But it's something that you absolutely don't need. It's like an Easter basket from 3 weeks ago or something.
Oh, yeah. Like, the amount of stuff I've read on why people shop, and I've even read books that are literally written for marketers on how to get women to spend money. I'd say if I could spread any message from the shopping ban, it would be to just keep your eyes open always and know that everything in some way is an ad. Like, whether it's just like the placement of something, like you said, like big ones are what's placed at the end of aisles. So like they have their kind of own display at the end of an aisle. Those are huge. Like even weird things like the lighting they use for those. They know it will suck you into picking up the product, like just taking a look at it and then being sold on it. It's wild. So yes.
I know. You feel like you're just being tricked all the time.
Yep. Yeah.
That's crazy. All right. I read a post on your blog about it was why you're moving into your car this year. Is this true? And can you explain?
Yeah, I think, okay. So to back it up, I'll say I don't have a date for this at the moment. The plan is that I've realized like there's so much more that I want to see. Like, I don't know. Everyone has a long list of like places they want to see internationally, and I do too. But I've realized like what I really want to see is more of Canada. I live in such a beautiful country and I just want to see more of it. And I have friends kind of all over the place. So I figured, why not pack up my car, drive across? I can visit friends here and there, but also get camping gear and just camp a lot. And I want to hike a lot and just, go away for like, my hope is like 3 months at least. So yeah, so it'd be like temporarily living in my car. But if I like it, I'd love to do something like that like every year. Like there's tons of places in the States I want to see. And again, I feel really fortunate to be able to say this, but through the world of blogging and just being connected online, I have friends all over the place. Like when I wrote that post, I couldn't believe the number of people all over the place who were like, if you're in this city, let me know. You can stay with me. If you want to go to this city, I have a cottage there and you can just have it for like however long. And if you can have my like ski chalet in some other place. And I'm like, what? Like, but I also think that says so much about like how generous and kind people are. And by just kind of putting ideas out there, I don't know. I think it just shows like how much support there is in this world. And I just want to get in my car and go and see it. So.
Absolutely. That's awesome. I'm a little bit jealous. I don't think I don't know. My car is a Honda Fit.
Yeah.
But she's pretty spacey. So I might be able to.
My car's smaller than that. Like I'm fully, like I wouldn't be able to do it if I didn't have a tent. I'm not sleeping in my car.
You could get one of those like camper vans. They have those in New Zealand and I think they're so cool.
Yeah. Well, the reason I also thought just do the car is because my car is 7 years old, but it has really low mileage still because for a long time I didn't really drive it that much. I work from home, so I still don't really drive that much. So I'm like, I might as well do something with my car now while the mileage is low. It'll still be able to get around places and yeah.
All right. If someone wants to start living a minimalist lifestyle, taking lessons from what you've learned in your personal experience, what's the first thing they should do to get started?
Well, I still think there's two. One is that I think doing one round of decluttering is really important. And I think people get extremely overwhelmed by it. I think the process that gets people stuck is they sort of like empty the drawer and then just see all the stuff and don't know what to do. And so it's like doing one drawer at a time, but like being extremely vigilant, like just literally have like 2 or 3 piles of like keep it, donate it, or throw it in the garbage and just touch every single thing. Do. Don't second guess it. Just go. Your first instinct of what to do is the one that means something. Like it's why we have gut instincts to do things or what tells us what's right or wrong or whatever. So I think a lot of people worry about the second guessing and am I going to regret that I got rid of anything? I've gotten rid of like over 75% of my stuff and I don't even remember what any of it was. Like I don't regret any of it. There's not a single thing I've thought of where I've regretted getting rid of it. So in beginning to consume things just going forward, just really pausing. Like I think that's the biggest thing. It'll help your budget and it'll help you just live a more minimalist lifestyle. Pausing and questioning every purchase you're going to make, just everything you're going to consume in general. Just questioning it before you do it rather than acting on impulse. And really just asking yourself if this is something you want to buy, if you want to eat it, if you want to consume it, if you want to read it. Like one of the biggest things or the best things I've done in these past 2 years is get rid of Facebook. And a lot of people worry about that. Like, oh, what if I miss out on pictures of friends or whatever? And I'm like, okay, but as nice as those are to see, there's so much negativity on social media in general, and Facebook's brutal for it. And the fact that all of that is gone now from my daily life, like I can't even explain just how much happier I feel on a daily basis without something as simple as that. So it takes a long time. You don't have to like get rid of Facebook and do all these things right away, but just questioning, like that took me a couple of years to do, but just questioning, like, is this adding value to my life? How does this make me feel? Do I really want this? And then really just only taking in what you believe will add value to your life.
Perfect. Great 2 steps for us. And the other thing, I mean, I've just done like the cleaning out my closet stuff, but it's funny how therapeutic it is for one. And then you kind of like, once you start getting rid of stuff, you just want to get rid of everything. Like you're just like, oh, this is disgusting. I got to get rid of all this stuff now. But it's fun. It helps.
Yeah. Well, I've had some people who are like, do you think you just do it now because it feels good? I'm like, maybe. But I still think it's like, I look at stuff and go, like, if it feels like it's adding clutter or stress or something, like it's something as simple as like, if you walk into a room and you see like that shelf that you put those projects on that you promised yourself you're going to do one day and you've still never done them and it's been like 6 years, those things need to go.
Yes.
It feels bad, like you spent money on it at one point or like you really did want to do that thing or wear that outfit or whatever. But like, if you haven't done it yet, at some point it's just saying like, okay, like you have to accept who you are, what your interests are, and just be okay with it. And it's okay. Like I had to let go of like, I'm never going to be some amazing photographer. And I just need to let that camera go because that's just not like, it's a cool idea, and but I'm like, I'll just leave it to the pros, and they can do that.
Yes. And then it's like, it's kind of coincides with you won't buy the shampoo until the day before you need it. Like if you sign up for a photography class, then you can go back out and buy a camera, and it'll be kind of a wash as far as like, yeah, you might have spent money on it years ago, but you probably don't even notice that loss is gone. Like you're not going to be like, oh, I still wish I had that camera I bought years ago.
Oh, totally. Well, it's also like spending wise, it's the false first step. So we buy all these things thinking that, yes, it's going to help me become better or whatever. Like that outfit's going to make me look great, or that book is going to make me smarter, or that course is going to teach me something I really need to know. And psychologically, we do this thing where we like just see the low amount or whatever, we justify it, we spend it, but we never touch it. And so again, it just goes back to pause, question, are you actually going to do it? Like I've even done it since I've quit and started working for myself. I'll look at some online courses once in a while and be like, oh, that looks interesting. Then I'm like, stop it, Cait. Are you actually going to take the time to do this course over the next month? If the answer is no, you cannot buy it.
Yes. I'm bad at that. I am like still going through courses that I've bought months ago. However, I'm actually like slowly going through them. So maybe it just takes me longer.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. And sometimes I think there are occasionally the odd things that you will pick up again and whatever, but it's really just, being okay with like letting it go. And if one day you do find that interest again, like if I get into photography when I'm like 50 or something, that's cool. Like I'll let myself buy a camera, but I know I'm not going to make it a priority right now. So right now it just needs to go.
Yes. All right, Cait, thank you so much for sharing that with us. That's wonderful advice and information. And for anybody interested in living this lifestyle, I'm definitely bought in, especially with my clothes. Gotta get that pared down. All right, my last kind of longer-winded question is, what do you believe might hold young, career-driven women back from achieving financial success, and how can we overcome it?
Oh, well, that actually I would say would go with what I briefly mentioned before, which what I would call us the Pinterest generation. And this actually, it does go for some guys too. I think that if you look at generations of consumers, like I'll just take my parents as an example, but looking at all my friends' parents, no one bought brand new houses that looked perfect or renovated every room to look perfect or, just had this perfect looking lifestyle. Like no one had that. My dad's house still has the original kitchen from the 1950s. And the fact is everything works. And so that's what matters. Again, it goes for some guys too. So I don't even just like to stereotype it, but it's buying into this idea that we need to sort of pay for and create these lives that will somehow, I don't know, like if everything looks good in person, then everything is good, or like that sort of defines your level of success. And it costs a lot of money. Like if you know how to have the Pinterest lifestyle on a very cheap budget, you're a rock star and you can go right for it. But I think I see a lot of people, like really smart women in my circle of friends, just in people I know online, who they start their careers, they make good money, and I feel like every time I talk to them, all they're talking about is something else they've bought, either for their home or their wardrobe or whatever, and it's all to take pictures of. Like I feel like we spend a lot of money trying to create an image of ourselves, and instead, like if we just stopped and looked at just doing whatever made us happy and having homes that just worked, like that's really all you need. Like it just goes back to the basics of everything, right? Like, but I think that that's the biggest thing. I don't know how many people I've talked to, or like even women I've worked with, where every time I've walked by their desk, they're on websites looking at shopping stuff. Like and I've seen like crazy things, like looking at lamps that are like $400. I'm like, what do you need that for?
Like IKEA has them and they're $10.
Yeah, and I'm like, you make good money. Do you really, like, at the end of the day, like if something happened to you tomorrow, what do you want to say about your life? Like, do you want to say that I owned this $400 lamp? Or do you want to say that like I I lived a good life and I was happy. If the lamp helps, like, that's where I'm like, I don't like jumping on toes or anything, because I'm like, if the lamp helps in some way, that's cool and that's your life. But I think creating an image of a life that we think we're supposed to have can really hurt us, especially when in a time when our generation is already facing setbacks of like housing's so expensive now in comparison to what our parents were paying and stuff like that. And even like salaries are lower in comparison and stuff like that. So I'm like, why waste money on the stuff that doesn't matter? So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of a rant.
No, thank you for sharing. I think that's very compelling and definitely heartfelt in the, like, we need to get away from what we think might make us happy or make us feel successful and look at what will actually fulfill us. So, all right, we're going into our quick and dirty Q&A. These are just some fast-paced questions to wrap up the show. So, Cait, what is one money habit you have that you believe has brought you success?
I think one of the greatest disservices that personal finance experts are doing is telling people to save like 10 or 20% and then spend the rest. I think flipping my belief and seeing that we should be trying to live on less and save the rest has been helpful, because in doing that, I've gone from saving, like 10% to saving sometimes 30, 40% of my income every month. All because I've realized, like, I've come up with the minimum number I need every month to live on. And I try to not ever go over that and save everything else that I earn.
Fantastic. This might be related, but what is something you wish you had known about money in your early 20s?
I would say that the minimum payments will catch up with you.
Yes. If someone dropped $50 million on your doorstep today, what would you do with it?
I would pay off my dad's mortgage and save the rest for now and probably never work again.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to. What are your 3 favorite resources to get personal finance or overall life advice?
Oh, shameless plug. I'll say Rockstar Finance. I love a lot of podcasts. I love the Good Life Project podcast, which has kind of just a mix of everything. I don't know. That's the problem with Rockstar Finance is I read everything. Like, I read hundreds of blogs every week. I'd say Twitter. I go to Twitter for like most, and because you can curate it and, get rid of all the stuff you don't want to follow, but I get a lot of information from Twitter. So
awesome. What are your 3 favorite apps on your phone?
Instagram. I have an app called Calm that I use to meditate every day. And then the Notes app, probably. I read a lot of notes.
I know, I woke up at 2 a.m. this morning and wrote a note to myself.
Yeah. And sometimes they're like 3 words, and then the next day you're like, what was that? Like,
yes.
What was I thinking?
All right. What is one guilty pleasure you spend money on that you can't help but indulge in?
Well, I've said travel. So travel for sure. And yeah, I'll just say that. Travel.
Fantastic. What's the favorite place you've been?
Ooh, good question. Probably, places ever.
I feel bad because that's such a loaded question because every place is so different. So
I know.
top 3.
I would say one is one I just got back from, which is it's called Tofino. It's a little surf town on Vancouver Island. It's about 4 hours north of where I live, and it's super small and remote and beautiful, and has like just the most beautiful beaches you've ever seen. You do not have to be a good photographer to be able to take good pictures of it. Oh, and another one, I don't know, I'm like in love with local stuff right now. Another is, it's called Squamish, and it's about maybe an hour north of Vancouver and like half an hour south of Whistler. And it's just it's like the outdoor recreation city of Canada or something like that. And it's just stunning. Like, there's always something to do. And I do love big cities occasionally, like if I'm in the mood for it. New York will always be one of the best places I've ever been. I went like 3 times in 2015, I think, or like in like a year I went like 3 times, and it was amazing every time. So
that's awesome. All right, Cait, our last request is give my audience your best words of advice about money.
Oh my gosh. I think it would probably just go back to, even the pause. I think actually if I brought it all the way back to when I was getting out of debt, I would say trust your gut. I think that that's probably really weird financial advice and probably not something anyone else says. But I think a lot of transactions that we go to make, our bodies can, if you like stopped and listened to it, your bodies can actually tell you if you should be doing it or not. I know I had that a lot of times when I went to swipe for things that I shouldn't have. I always knew, like I knew my body was telling me, or my gut or my brain or whatever. Something always told me that I shouldn't have been doing it. And if I'd listened to it, I could have stopped myself from getting into, quite as bad of a situation as I did. But the same thing goes even nowadays. Like I'll still have thoughts of like making impulse purchases during the shopping ban and whatever. And I've had moments in the shopping ban where I've still gone and like filled the like an online shopping cart and even entered my credit card and billing information and then just not hit submit because I've stopped and listened to myself and been like, no, like you don't actually need these things, or you're not supposed to be shopping right now. Or, you have, like I said, 40 now. I still have like 30 or 40 books that I haven't read. And, it's just listening to myself and just knowing that, it's okay to say no if your body is telling you to. So trust your gut.
I think that's great advice.
Yeah.
All right. Talk about what's happening over at Blonde on a Budget. How can my listeners work with you or get more information from you?
Yeah. Well, blog's just same old. I write once a week, usually just something that's going on in my life or like lessons I'm learning. So you can always stop on by there. In the next couple of weeks here, my friend Carrie Smith and Carrie writes a blog called Careful Sense. We'll start recording season 2 of our podcast, which it's called Budgets and Cents. So that'll launch. We haven't picked an exact date. I'm guessing around June 21st. And yeah, I don't know. I'm always on Twitter and I love Instagram. Actually, Instagram is like a fun place for me right now. Since the beginning of the year, I've been trying to post 1 picture a day, documenting I'm calling it like a simple year, and just, one small moment every day that I really enjoy or something like that. And I'm also doing book reviews, like any books that I'm reading, because I'm trying to read more this year. Anything I've read, I've been posting pictures up there. So
fantastic. All right, Cait, thank you so much for joining us on the Words and Money podcast. It's been a pleasure having you.
No, thank you. It was a great conversation.
Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in to the Words and Money podcast. This was an excellent episode with Miss Blonde on a Budget herself, Cait Flanders. We talked all about debt repayment, living on less, starting a shopping ban, and living that minimalist lifestyle and how you can get started today. If you want any of the resources or links that we talked about in this episode, as well as links to Cait's blog and her podcast, go to www.tesswicks.com/podcast/Cait Flanders. That's Cait with a C, so it's CaitFlanders. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Go have a wonderful week.